Okay. No no music. It's been too long, y'all. We're just gonna jump right into it. Leave the thumbnail up there for a minute. If you just now coming in, welcome to the live experience. Shout out to our replay viewers, and of course those of you who will be joining us live. I'm your boy Lab, your host, your operator here of this whole operation. How's everybody doing? It's been a while. It's been too long, fam. It's been too long. But we're here. Yeah. I tell you what, we got off to a late start. Ran into a few technical difficulties. I guess that's what happens. We haven't been live in a while. We did publish a live stream about a month ago. But it's been a while since I actually also had an upload. Something I'm going to talk about in this live stream. But the core focus or the core topic of this conversation in today's live experience show, again, one more time, we got air horn. Live experience has been on a bit of a hiatus, so we'll see, how many Lab Fam pop up. But Lab Fam, if you're catching this on the replay, you know how we roll around here. The replay is just as informative, just as educational as if you were here live with me right now. But let me know where you're watching from, replay fam, and those of you, if you're just now tuning in, let me know where you're watching from. Do remember to hit the like button for me on your way in or on your way out. I am gearing up to reintroduce some new content formats. YouTube is also really pushing podcasts here, and I could potentially see the third season of the live experience show. That's the show we run here on the channel. This show right here, essentially the show that started the live streaming content for me, change in a podcast heavy format, right? Just not create a separate channel. I'm not a big fan of that, but having the podcast run right here on the channel as we continue the conversation on all things PC gaming and PC hardware, and finding the most value for your setup or getting the most value for your money when it comes to either upgrading or building your gaming PC. And that's why the topic of this conversation. See, here we go, y'all. It's gonna be a few more of those. Again, I'm a bit rusty. I'm kind of shaking off the wheels here a little bit, but I mean, it's a perfect segue into highlighting what the topic of this conversation is all about. And that is, if you're building a gaming PC, there's a few things you should know, or we're going to essentially lay out everything you need to know, everything you should know, especially from a beginner's perspective, or somebody who isn't quite acclimated or doesn't have an understanding of how the platform works, how building a gaming PC works, what are some of the things you should take into consideration first and foremost before buying any of your computer components. We talk about it a lot here on this channel. We're going to dive deeper into it though right now. Shout out to Mrs. Mod, keeping the chat lively and friendly, keeping the chat lively and friendly. And again, if you're falling in, do tell me where you are watching from. I don't know how long we'll be live. Again, I wanted to slowly reintroduce the live experience show as it converts into a podcast-like format, but not to deviate here too far. But the core purpose of the live experience, though, even in its podcast form, would be a live podcast, but it would be to like pull the audience closer to myself as a creator, and for me, myself as a creator, to get closer to the audience, introduce myself to new subscribers. Our subscriber growth has kind of slowed down a little bit, but in all respect, that's largely in part due to the content distribution also slowing down. So, as we push more videos and get more content up, then I could only hope to see those numbers grow as well. But if you're a first-time viewer, welcome to the channel. If you haven't yet, hopefully I will have earned your subscription here throughout the duration of this live stream. I mean, we've done live streams in excess of 4 or 5 hours or more, right? Those were good times. We had a lot to talk about, and from a PC gamer or a PC enthusiast perspective, we have even more to talk about, right? Like, how the platform has appeared to slow down or die down a little bit in between significant or major generational releases like RDNA 3 graphics cards and Ryzen 7000, just to name two of the biggest launches here we've had. And of course, the RTX 4070 just released, in the 47 Ti also right around the corner. I believe it's already out. I do believe it's already out. Either way, it's coming, and it should be relatively close. But I mean, we're in the middle of new hardware launches, and the hype just doesn't seem to be there. There could be a few reasons as to why that is. Some of them we talked about, and some of them we talked about in a previous video, but there could be a few reasons as to why that is. Han Slow-Mo is in the house. It's good to see you, Han. Hey, Han. Han gets the air horn and a round of applause. We got Legacy fam in the house. Legacy fam in the house. It's good to see you, Han. What's happening, fam? Han's checking in all the way from the other side of the globe. It's good to see you, brother Mike. Again, we're sharing a few tips, and by all means, live viewers and replay viewers, if you if I miss any tips, or if I leave out a bit of details that you think should be added, by all means, this is an interactive experience, hence the name and the title. Feel free to share them with us here in the live chat. But our replay viewers, of course, you would have to share them with us down in the comment section below. On your way down there, you may come across a description box which may have additional helpful content if you're a beginner. Some videos that kind of a little bit more slow burn, that take this part of the conversation a bit further, slower, and that way you're able to ingest the information in a more consumer-friendly manner. But here in the live experience, this is all about, answering the questions that you may not have thought of or you may not have considered, especially if you're a beginner, fam, or you're on slightly older hardware and you're looking to, say, upgrade, right? Depending on where you are in your journey will determine how you need to start or how you should proceed on whatever it is your objective is with your system. Is that getting more FPS? Is that increasing the level of quality in your games? Are you looking to up your resolution, so now you need a beefier graphics card, or you need a faster CPU with more cores because now you're streaming or you're busting down video and you're editing and you're doing things like that. So depending on where you are as an enthusiast, that will determine what's the next logical step for you if you were looking to build or upgrade. I hate just leaving out, or I dislike saying hate, but I loathe leaving out those who are already established enthusiasts, or you can consider all PC gamers enthusiasts, because to some level degree there's an advanced ownership with having a gaming PC that's just not there and just not relevant with owning a console, which I do have an interesting series coming up around that topic or around that conversation. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but in a video we published where we assembled that $700 gaming PC here in 2023, there was a teaser at the very end that might point you in the direction of where that series could be heading. But interesting directorial approach I'm going to go with in that series, or possibly two-part miniseries. So do be on the lookout for that. Han says, just built me a new one in the Fractal Ridge case. Nice. Is it your previous setup, Mike? Or did you go with an all new configuration? Do let us know what the internals are looking like. Do feel free to share them with us. And anybody, if you're watching, all builds are welcome, fam. We don't discriminate here. I don't care if your build costs you $300 or if you put it together with parts out of the trash can. I think that's a hell of a story, and invigorating enough anyway that you should share with us. Like, definitely should share. But Mike, speaking of share, let us know what the internals are of your system here. But awesome stuff. The Fractal has some amazing cases, especially some of their older cases. But good choice there. Solid build quality, tempered glass, everything checks off. Expandability, very good cases, and they're also affordable. Those two things go hand in hand, especially when you're looking to make a case upgrade. But again, I love shopping for cases. Cases is one of my favorite components to to shop for and look into, like hands down, right? One of my favorite components to look into. Speaking of cases, I got another case nut or case case extreme fan, and that's Brother Cliff. WASD moves. Brother Cliff was happening. Cliff gets a round of applause and the air horn, double air horn. Another long time viewer here, supporter of the channel. It's good to see you as well, Brother Cliff. Me and Brother Cliff were in the background working on some hardware deals that I need to get up to speed on. But it's been a roller coaster, and I know we talked on Twitter, Cliff, and we'll continue to talk. But it's good to see you. Cliff says, "What's up, cool crew?" You guys are a bunch of cool cats for sure. But again, it's good to see experienced enthusiasts that are also present on this live stream. You never know who's watching. You never know who may come across this live stream on the replay. The idea, as it's stated in the thumbnail, is to, share pro tips, not only just your basic common knowledge tips, but like pro tips, like really advanced tips that could help push more and more gamers over to this platform, especially in a time where the argument is just as difficult to be had when consoles, especially one in particular that's in stock, essentially even on Amazon right now, and would run you about what the cost of an RTX 4070 would run you, give or take, maybe even a little less, and you'd be able to play modern games out the back, some of the most popular modern games out the back, right? Like Hogwarts Legacy, Destiny 2, Days Gone, God of War, Ragnarok, right? I mean, I just kind of gave it away, but that's becoming more and more of a talking point, with the consoles now becoming accessible and available at prices where they should be, maybe even a little less. But when you say, can you build a PC alternative or build a PC alternative, it gets really, really challenging or really, really difficult given what that console can do. Han says, just swap the parts. However, it won't run. It won't run now. I suspect the board got hit, as Rock Phantom Gaming B650 R9 7900 XTX. Man, that sucks. Are you going to RMA your board, or he says it won't turn on, but it says won't run now. I don't know why the text is like real small. What's going on here? Cliff says at 30 FPS like Redfall. Yes, no thanks. Right. I mean, again, that dynamic refresh rate, it's one of the, or having a dynamic refresh rate like on a PC where, it's not capped or you can change it, is like the go-to with that argument, like with that whole entire argument. That's where I start off. I remind users and I remind gamers, and I'll do it here on the live stream. I remind them that video games are essentially digital flip books. We did a segment on it in a previous show, but video games are essentially digital flip books. And the more FPS you have, the smoother that book is going to read out, or the smoother it's going to feel, the smoother your games are going to play. And essentially you want as many FPS produced that your monitor can render and handle. That way you avoid things like ghosting and screen tearing. But at that price point, you say, hey, do I want to run my games at 30 FPS, 60? Do I want to rely on console corporate magic, if you will? Going with the PC is still a way to go, and that's why in this live stream we are going to highlight a few of the pro tips one should know before building a gaming PC, and essentially everything you need to know. And Brother Cliff, and those of you who are just falling in, again, I ask you to hit the like button for me on your way in or on your way out. If you are unable to stay for the full duration of this live stream, in the beginning I mentioned how before, and Cliff and Han, fam, y'all know, because you've been on a few of those live streams with us. We've had shows going the hour range, like hours range, 2, 3, 4 even, right? Like 2, 3, 4. But going with the PC and having an unlocked potential, unlocked frame rate or dynamic frame rate is so much better, and worth the cost, right? And Cliff says, "How did I know?" Or let me go back a few bit, go down a few comment section below. Then we'll jump into the meat and bones of this conversation. But again, this is an interactive experience. My replay fams, if you anything we discuss or you come across here in the live chat or you hear me mention here on video, leave a timestamp down and below, and hopefully we'll be able to answer your question or help you with your pain point or provide you with additional context. But Cliff says, "Now hot button issue seems more or not pleased with." Let me put up. Okay, I gotta pull up the chat. I mean, this might be a little easier. Sorry, guys. That's live for you. That's how live works. Let me get caught up in the chat here. Cliff says, "Now hot button issue seems more or not pleased with next gen. Still rocking 30." Cliff says, "How did I know?" As rocking. Mike says, "RMA in China, not easy. Got me replacement already." Right. That's a pain point with even as an enthusiast. But sometimes it's quicker to just go buy another one. Maybe even attempt the RMA at a later point. Or as Brother Han mentioned, that it's where he's located in China, it's not as easy as it is for, say, if you're over here in North America, or if you're somewhere in Central Europe, something like that. Cliff says, last motherboard I had issues with was ASRock as well. I haven't had any issues with ASRock that I can, and boards that I can, remember offhand. Doesn't mean that it won't happen. I mean, I've more so had a few hiccups here with Gigabyte recently, but it's been mostly BIOS related. But sometimes it could be quicker to just buy the replacement. I experienced that too with the build we did for Sparta Rules 1993, right? And even when it came back and we fixed it, took a little while, but we was able to get down to the root of the problem, and it was tied directly to the motherboard and the BIOS specifically. I said that right. But all right, all good stuff. But yeah, Han, that sucks, man. Hopefully you got your board, and is everything up and running now, or are you still running into that issue? But do be on the lookout for ASRock, fam. That's another important factor you should take into consideration when you're buying your components from brand manufacturers. Follow your wallet, but also look for brands that offer good or that has a smooth RMA process, because Murphy's Law, if something can go wrong, it will. Computer components, especially ones with exposed PCBs like your motherboard, right? There's nothing really protecting the sensitive components on a motherboard, and it can be easily dinged, scratched, or subject to static shock or static electricity that can fry the board. That's a silent killer, hard to diagnose, right? Unless the board just flat out won't come on and it's just straight up dead. But even then, you also have to factor out connections, power supply, and other things. But still, I mean, your motherboard is an exposed PCB, right? And so you want to, when it comes to a sensitive component like your motherboard, it's good to make sure you have a good RMA, or should something go wrong, you could make it an easy fix, kind of like what Han did in his situation with his board. But all good stuff. Jumping back to where we were initially getting ready to take off with the conversation, and that was how video games are essentially digital flip books, and when you play them, you want them to feel, look, and be as smooth as possible. So that's achieved with building a gaming PC, and we're going to jump right into the meat and bones of this conversation. Into the meat and bones of this conversation, and that is pro tips for building a gaming PC. Everything you need to know. First, we're going to be accompanied by some Spider-Man gameplay, because here recently, y'all, your boy Lab has a guilty pleasure I'll share. I've been playing some Marvel Spider-Man. I've been actually playing some games subjectively, not benchmarking it, but actually playing them and enjoying them. Why? Because that's what being an enthusiast is all about. You may love to tinker. You may love to overclock. You may love to bust down your system and swap the case every once in a while. That's me. But when it's all said and done, your games are installed. What you want the most is to experience the media that's designed for you, and how your system is built and designed around your targeted gaming experience. Not everybody who plays a game, who builds a gaming PC, necessarily plays games. But even if you are a 3D modeler, or you're a video editor, I mean, when it's all said and done, you may like to do those things. You may like to tinker and overclock, but you want to sit down and use your machine for what it's designed for, or what it's designed to do. For the majority of us in this community, and the majority of you who are pointed towards this community, right, that usually comes in the form of playing video games. And there's nothing wrong with that. Gaming is highly therapeutic. At least it is for me. Maybe it is for you. You tell me what gaming does for you, or why do you like playing video games? Not just on the PC, but playing video games in general, right? Maybe you're still a console gamer and you're watching this on the replay, or you're watching this live now. But, why do you play video games? As I continue our opening, share with me in the live chat right here or in the replay. Like, what do you get out of playing games? For me, it's heavy therapeutic. I love cinematic games. I love feeling like I am a part of the story. I love becoming the character, feeling like I can do the things the character is doing, be a proxy of the controller, maxing out my settings, getting the most detail I possibly can, which Marvel Spider-Man looks great. It's slightly blurred now here in our background wallpaper, but getting the most detail out of my games. That's why I invest in higher end hardware as an enthusiast, because I want to be able to just stop, look around, and fully take in the scenery, right? All the details on the bricks, all the details on the streets. And Marvel Spider-Man has implemented ray tracing really well. I mean, you see police sirens, kind of bouncing off of walls in the streets, and Spider-Man kind of webs through the lights, and he creates a shadow as he swings through there. It's really neat, and sometimes I find myself just sitting on the rooftop and taking the game in. Really good game. If you haven't played it, I recommend it. I know I'm probably late to the party, but I recommend giving that game a look-see and giving it a shot. I do plan on playing Miles Morales, but again, why do you play video games? Answer that question. Share with us right here in the live chat or right here in the replay. And regardless of where you're watching, do be sure to hit the like button for me. As a reminder, let's get this video out in front of as many people as possible, y'all, as we jump into it. Again, here we go. Building a gaming PC. Everything you need to know first, okay? But most importantly, a few pro tips. Pro tips that come from well-experienced or thoughtful and knowledgeable users and enthusiasts, builders, system integrators, more so importantly, that could help you with your journey or help you with familiarizing yourself as a PC gamer. Just knowing what all entails being a PC owner does have its hiccups. A lot to keep up with, say, in between driver updates or BIOS updates or new hardware releases and what have you, and just knowing what's right for your system and what's right for your playstyle, how important your monitor factors in to your experience as a whole. But PC gaming is super niche, right? It can be super expensive, super confusing at times, and even uninspiring as a platform. We've dealt with that when we had the GPU Techdemic Part 1 and Part 2. Part 2 was way more severe and it lasted longer. I think we're still feeling some of the aftermath of the longevity of the second Techdemic. But we also had a RAM Techdemic as well, where there was a RAM shortage, where RAM was through the roof. Okay, now RAM is at a respectable price. Now you can pick up a 16 gigabyte kit, 3200 megahertz DDR4, like say Corsair Vengeance LPX low profile kit of memory for about $43. But 2.5 years ago, about 3 years ago, almost 3.5 years ago, when we experienced that certainly was not the case. 16 gigabyte kit of RAM either cost you a little over 100, or it was just generally out of stock. So it can be uninspiring at times when you want to upgrade a component, or graphics cards were overpriced because they were low shortage, right? We had a silicone shortage, but it could be uninspiring at times as a platform, right? Never really given the content, because there's a wide range of games to play on the PC that it would be difficult for you to grow tired from playing them. But consoles like the PS5 are filling in the void as the affordable plug and play option for many gamers. Yes, even with its locked frame rate. Okay, if it's at 30, 60, or 100, regardless, I mean, that lock frame rate is something you can't just yada yada over or ignore, because your frame rate is such an important benchmark figure, not the important, but one of the most important benchmark figures, with your minimums and your 1% lows being indicators of stuttering or frame drops. But it is a significant baseline when trying to determine a targeted gaming experience that's right for you. But the PS5, I mean, it's a $500 console, $550 with God of War Ragnarok. That's a hard case to make when a respectable PC of equal caliber may run you about $1,000, right? Very close to it, about 900, somewhere along the lines of there. And that's with maybe an RTX 3060 or an RTX 3060 Ti, maybe a 6800 XT or a 6650 XT, somewhere along the lines of that graphics card. But it's going to run you about $900 to $1,000 USD. But those looking to get the most out of your games, again, yeah, that sounds all good and great for a PS5, right? But those who are looking to get the most out of their games, content and media, right, to get the best out of all of those things, especially in a dynamic and highly expansive form, you can look no more other than in the direction of the platform that we commonly know and refer to as the PC. But before you get started on taking that path, or heading down that journey, as we like to call it, there are a few things you should know, either as a beginner or as a semi-seasoned enthusiast that's just been out of the loop for a while and you're just trying to get caught up, or you're like, hey, I'm still stuck on Bulldozer or third or fourth generation Intel, older platform, or older socket and chipset. I'm not sure where to start. Yeah, I can run some games now, but I experience stuttering, or I can't push the level of quality and the detail of my games. Even at 1080p, your CPU is going to play a factor when you're looking at, say, going from a 900p or 1080p low to like 1080p ultra settings, right? Most modern games are leveraging the CPU now more than ever. So don't skimp down on the on your CPU thinking, well, I just want detail. I want the biggest level of detail, the most level of detail out of my games first and foremost. Let me get caught up in the chat here really fast. Han says, same for me, relaxing, forget work, immerse in sci-fi worlds. I totally resonate with that. That's how I feel about it too. I love immersing myself in, like sci-fi worlds and fantasy worlds. Games can be immersive. People think like, oh, that's like, submerging something. Well, even it's still accurately used in my opinion, because we are submerging ourselves into this game world. I mean, we are diving and fully putting all of our energy and our love and affinity into this game, like becoming the character. Here, while I'm playing Marvel Spider-Man Remastered on the PC here, I mean, I feel like Spider-Man more now than I ever have, and it's a really dope and fun experience. I mean, just swinging through New York and fighting villains, coming across some of the Easter eggs, like the Daredevil business card, the Matt Murdock business card, not the Daredevil business card, but the Matt Murdock business card, or finding the Sanctum Sanctorum and taking a picture of it. Just in how Peter Parker, Spider-Man says, I always wonder, there's something strange about this building. But just those small things, I mean, it just makes me feel like I'm in the universe. I feel like I am, I feel like I am this character. I can become this character. I'm a big Batman fan. And if you know me, and you know the Batman games, maybe up to Arkham Knight, that's another conversation. But to me, when I played the Batman games, I was the Batman. Especially Arkham City. Not Arkham City. Arkham City was good, but Arkham Asylum, I think, is underrated, man. Didn't get enough love. Still, and it was a great game. Cliff says, WASD Move says, spend more on your CPU and power supply and not overspend. I see so many people overspend. Yeah, definitely don't want to overspend on your power supply, man. It's a good pro tip right there shared, with Brother Cliff, as I'm going to jump down and get caught up in the chat here really fast. I see Han has shared a few tips as well, or it looks like Han added to the conversation. But especially with your power supply, I mean, if you're using tools like PCPartPicker.com, or even, sorry if you can hear the sirens outside. I apologize about that. Let me close the window here a little bit. But I mean, with your power supply unit, if you're using tools like on PCPartPicker.com or Newegg, and you're able to estimate your wattage, what I recommend is that you at least 2x your estimated wattage, and don't more so say, hey, I need a 1,000-watt power supply, and your system only has about a 300-watt, a 300 estimated watt output, right? So you may not need a power supply unit that exceeds over 600 to 650 watts, especially if you're upgrading your graphics card. Won't be conceivable to or for at least another few years down the road, right? But absolutely, I mean, you definitely should spend more on your CPU, especially here, and especially given how, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, your CPU is becoming more and more of a factor in your games. Let me caught up here. I have to expand the chat to get caught up. All good stuff though. Han says, same for me. Oh, yeah. Sci-Fi Worlds, have to excuse myself some minutes making breakfast. Awesome stuff. Yeah, that's right. Cliff's on totally different. I'm not sorry, Cliff. Mike Han is on a totally different time zone over there. Interested enough. It's breakfast for him. Getting ready to throw down some breakfast. All good stuff, Han. We'll be here. We haven't started off with the first content block yet. Some of the first tips I'm going to share in this live podcast podcast stream. Air horn for the podcast stream. Double air horn for the podcast stream. Mrs. Mod says, I don't game as much, but when I do, it's like a break from the everyday hustle and bustle of life. That's always been, I mean, even before I became an adult, gaming. I mean, we were in middle school, elementary school, high school, gaming just took away from all the issues, or just for a moment allowed you to escape one reality and jump into another one. And Cliff says, you like ray tracing, Cyberpunk 2077, Overdrive Path, ray tracing is off the chain. I mean, ray tracing has definitely come a long way. I haven't picked up and looked at it in a while over on Cyberpunk, but I will say when Cyberpunk first released, I thought that it was, even in its buggy state, I thought CD Projekt Red did a good job implementing ray tracing. I thought the game was nothing more than a glorified tech demo, but even in its state that it slowly rolled out into be, ray tracing was implemented really, really well. I thought it made the game, and it made Night City look distinct and unique amongst any other futuristic or dystopian-like cities we've seen in games of similar caliber. But like I mentioned with Spider-Man Mastered, that too really implemented ray tracing well. Metro Exodus is another game that launched when RTX graphics cards launched. I mean, I picked up a 2080 Ti and a 2080 at the time just because, well, one after the other, 2080 and then the 2080 Ti, because I was all on board with ray tracing. I wanted to give it a shot. And so I played Metro Exodus with ray tracing turned all the way up. And I thought the game looked amazing at times. Still do. Han says, see Cyberpunk, stuttering. Shaking the rust off, y'all, I promise. But Han says Cyberpunk 2077, Mass Effect, Far Cry, X4. However, in office, I use a PC with a 5600X, 6650 XT, and runs pretty well, even in 1440p. All those are great games. I mean, first Mass Effect, I didn't really like Andromeda, but Mass Effect, solid sci-fi. I know you like playing science fiction games. I mean, that's a really good science fiction based game. And of course, Cyberpunk 2077. I mean, the game still looks great to this day. I haven't played it in a while. I do recommend one would play it in its current state. So much better than when it was released. And I, unfortunately, put all my energy into it when it first came out, and I'm just kind of cyberpunked out. Far Cry X4, all good stuff though. And Cliff says $540 I put a part picker together. $540 I put on part picker together. 10 core, 13th generation B660 NVMe. Nice PSU, excellent base for a good GPU. Yeah, that's a great starter system to add a GPU, even if one would again be willing to head over to the used market. I mean, their cards are still there, right? I mean, they're graphics cards that can be had for a few decent prices, especially if you're looking at a 20 series base RTX graphics card or a previous generation GTX graphics card, if ray tracing isn't immediately on your radar. But not bad. And that's why when I mentioned about if you were looking, if you didn't want to go a console route and you say, nope, I still want to build a PC, but I only have about $600 for that. That's all I got. I mean, like Cliff mentioned about putting together a PC part picker build for around 540 USD. You certainly could go that route, and that could start you off with a solid platform and a base to add a good GPU. You could take about $200 to $300 additionally and add a GPU that's going to really complement that system, maybe give or take a little more, and that would put you closer to around that $800 to $900 price range. I had mentioned this in that build video we did where we configured a system, a $700 gaming PC with a graphics card. I mentioned that you're going to pay more for that PC versus buying a PS5 or console, right? You're going to pay more for that PC, but the cost warrants, what you're getting in exchange, it warrants the cost, the extra cost versus versus buying a console, and you're limited to the internals of that console, maybe only upgrading the storage, right? But yeah, and Cliff says that base spec will do 90% of gamers for under 600 USD. Yeah, especially given that 1080p is still the most popular resolution. I imagine, I don't have to check the Steam site to look at statistics, but Steam isn't representative of all gamers, even Steam users who still have to opt in for the survey. But even for those who have, and it's no small figure, right? Like, it's nothing to, kind of ignore. Still a large amount of gamers who have opted in for that survey. And as the statistics show, 1080p is still the most popular resolution, and it's not that demanding. Low medium is a flexible target for, as Cliff mentioned, a good majority of gamers in the community. We have, the enthusiasts like myself, maybe even Han and Cliff, and some others who aren't here present with us now, or maybe you're watching the replay. We have some others that want more from this system, or I am indecisive at time of my resolution. It could depend on the game. Do I want to play it at 1440p? Do I want to play it at 4K? Sometimes 1080p just feels fast and fluid, especially when you have especially when you are able to push your refresh rate and push a level of detail in your games. Those two combined can really just pull you in regardless of the game you're playing, right? If that's CSGO, if it's a game that relies on a lot of FPS, like CSGO or Destiny 2 or Apex, a game a little along the lines there. But speaking of games, let's jump back to our digital canvas here. Again, the title of this live stream or live show, as Mrs. Mob tells you, to hit the like button for me. Definitely. Again, I know our viewership probably, I didn't promote this live stream out as much as I should. And typically you go live longer, you get a higher viewership. But we're not going to be live that long, y'all. We're going to keep the conversation fast and fluid, kind of like how your monitor should be. But we're going to keep the conversation fast and fluid. But pro tips for building a gaming PC. Starting off, number one, this is something we talked about, but super important, and that's building around your budget. And the first step to get started, right? It's the first step to getting started, building around your budget. Now, when assembling your build, or when you're in the list phase, like Cliff mentioned, he put together a build over on PCPartPicker.com. I mean, that's your first step. That's the first step to getting started, knowing what you're going to need. And tools like PCPartPicker.com are extremely helpful. Okay, super straightforward. It has a compatibility mode you can run, and it'll let you know if you have any issues that you have missed or that you haven't considered. Super helpful tool, and it's essentially the first step to getting started, right? But when you're assembling your build and you're in that list phase, and you're at that phase, the list phase, you've already decided on your monitor, you've considered the type of games you want to play, how you want to play them, and how you wish to experience them. So now you know the kind of hardware you're going to need. If you're a 1080p gamer, then like Cliff mentioned, you may not even need a super beefy or super expensive setup or system, right? You can start with a base configuration and expand on it at a different time or a little bit down the road, right? But with graphics cards still in a weird place, you want to spend adequately on a card or a system with a beefy graphics card only if your monitor and your playstyle calls for it. That's why it's important to determine the type of games you want to play and how you want to experience them first, because you may not even need a graphics card that has 8 gigabytes or more of VRAM. Maybe you don't need 10 gigabytes, right? You don't need that 3080 that you see on the used market for around $500, which in that case you should go ahead and grab. Even if you don't need 10 gigabytes of VRAM, maybe your interest in wanting more details out of your games could also increase quicker than you originally thought. That certainly happened to me. Fam, that certainly happened to me. And it can happen to you. Likely while you're probably watching this video, or you're in a state to where you say, you know what? Hey, I wanna update my I wanna upgrade my graphics card. I wanna get more out of my games. But it really starts with the type of games you want to play and how you wish to play them. Okay, I see Cliff said he's experiencing some issues on YouTube. I'm gonna check to see if there's anything on my end, but no weird messages or anything from YouTube. Oh, well, yep, it does say I'm not receiving enough. Okay. If you're experiencing any delays or buffering on your end, I do apologize about it in advance. Sometimes YouTube likes to play well, and sometimes, well, it just likes to be a little funny acting. That's just the nature of live streaming and why a lot of people don't do it. But that's not how we roll here at Inside the Lab. But consider if you need or should be paying for paying extra or paying for enthusiast features or new generation tech. Not just next generation, but new generation. Do you need PCIe 5.0? Do you need DDR5? Do you need a enthusiast board with overclocking features, right? Do you need an unlocked CPU? Do you have any interest in overclocking? These are all enthusiast features that you will end up paying more for, that you could save money on that, in that build you're trying to put together if you don't need them. They're not required to have a measurable and a pleasant experience playing your games on a PC, right? So consider if you need them. Consider if you need those features. Do you need enthusiast features? Put the money first in areas that have an immediate impact on your experience first. Fast-paced games, invest in a fast CPU. It's one of the tips that was shared here by one of the members in this community. Spend on your CPU. If you're buying a pre-built gaming PC, I recommend buy a pre-built gaming PC with the fastest CPU you can with your money. Not one with the highest amount of storage, or one with a graphics card that's enamored with buzzwords, right? Like a 3080 Ti or an RTX 3080, right? Or 4070, like a slightly higher end card. Invest in a pre-built, right? Put your money in areas that'll have the most immediate or the most significant impact on your gaming experience. But almost certainly you want a fast CPU. You want a fast CPU because ideally you want your graphics card to be fast, but your CPU has to be fast enough to also keep up with your graphics card, okay? But if you're interested in running multiple different tasks, right? Like having different different programs running in the background, or doing other extensive tasks, then you might need faster or a higher RAM configuration. It goes back to, are you creating content? Are you creating content? Are you live streaming? Are you gaming and live streaming? Are you gaming, live streaming, and editing your videos? Hell, are you gaming or are you editing other content creators' videos? Okay, you may need more RAM. So investing in a higher configuration, say going from 16 to 32, makes the most sense for you and your budget. Okay, that's why it's important to build around your budget. Build around your budget. If you're expecting to buy or download or build up a robust catalog of games, right, like a wide library of games, without the meddling of like managing your disk space, uninstalling and dumping your trash can, your recycle bin. I mean, those things you should be doing, but you want that experience to be streamlined. But if you plan on having a large amount of games installed, then strongly consider investing in a higher storage configuration, which I saw on Amazon, a 2 terabyte NVMe M.2 that was selling for around 100 USD. Great investment for your system. And still 2 terabytes, it's a lot, and that was a lot, especially compared to about 5-6 years ago. Games are still getting rather beefy in their download size, right? So consider the games you want to play. Games like Fortnite, picking on Fortnite again, but games like Fortnite have really large download sizes. Okay, PUBG, just to name a few. Call of Duty Warzone, another one. All right, just to name a few. They all have really large download sizes, and you also want to take into consideration that with the updates, those games get a little heavier in file size. Okay. Let me get caught up in the chat here really fast. As Cliff says, okay, I think that's better. Good stuff. Glad to have you back. I keep checking over to make sure the health of the live stream is also doing good as well. Han says, if you don't need ray tracing as a basic system, can still bring a great experience. I totally wholeheartedly agree with that sentiment, brother Han. It even goes back to the build that Cliff had mentioned that he parted out. That was around 540 USD. And it had 13th generation Intel CPU. Sure, it didn't have a dedicated card, but again, if ray tracing isn't your cup of tea, I mean, it can be, right? Maybe just now it's not, but if ray tracing isn't your cup of tea, then stick to a GTX card. Hop over on Team Radeon and pick yourself up an RX 5000 or 6000 series graphics card, and still possibly experience ray tracing to some degree with Fidelity FX Super Resolution, or even machine learning that could also improve and enhance your FPS. I know that's another subject with machine learning like DLSS and FSR, but the settings are there if one would want to take advantage of them. But build around your budget, okay? A pro tip to when parting your system out, right? Like at the end of each of these segments, I'll try to introduce a pro tip, but all good stuff. Thanks for adding. Continue to add to the conversation, fam. And again, hit the like button for me, y'all, as you pop in, as you pop out. But good stuff, Han. Han said, yeah, if you don't need ray tracing, don't buy into it. Don't pick up an RTX based card. Okay, that might not make the most sense for you. And when it comes to building around your budget, okay? But that's the first step to getting started. But here's a pro tip when you are parting your system out, or you're determining how much you should spend or how much you're going to need. Like you say, Lab, build around your budget. Well, how the hell do I know how much my budget should be? How do I know how much I'm going to need? But if you thought about the type of games you want to play, let me use Days Gone. Okay, I use Days Gone because Days Gone is it's a game that's next on my hierarchy of games I would like to play after I finish maybe Spider-Man and Miles Morales. But let me use Days Gone as an example. If I wanted to play Days Gone and I wanted to play it at 1440p, maybe 30 to 60 FPS on average at low to medium settings, or maybe medium to high settings, somewhere along the lines of there. I know that's the type of games I want to play, open world story-driven games at a higher resolution, a resolution that's typically not often played at. One I recommend, though, especially if you've been on 1080p for the last decade or so, or not decade, but if you've been on 1080p for a while, is what I recommend you make this switch over too, right? Maybe 1440p. Give the resolution a shot, but build around your needs and then your budget. Okay, build around your needs and then your budget. You may have $1,000, right? 1,000 USD to spend, but you only need 800. After you've made the determination that I only need an RTX 3060, graphics card somewhere, a fast graphics card with at least more than 6 gigabytes of VRAM, a modern card that can power that resolution, that can power newer, faster CPUs, like on the Ryzen 5000 side or an Intel 10th or 11th generation side, right? Somewhere along the lines there. If you only need, if your needs only calls for around 800 USD, then you could use that $200 difference to either improve your monitor, right? Like get a higher rated monitor or a better quality monitor, or on other focus areas of your build, say, going from 16 gigabytes to 32 or slightly faster RAM, or possibly even upgrading to a faster CPU. But just because you have 1,000 doesn't mean you should necessarily spend 1K or spend 1,000. Consider your needs first. Build around your budget. Build around your needs. Brother Cliff says 6650 or 6700 XT would give you a next-gen experience. In my experience, 6650 XT gets you XSX/PS5 experience and many times better. I totally agree. I mean, the 6650 XT, last I saw Micro Center, they were selling for, if I'm not mistaken, between $249 or somewhere along the lines of there. But they were affordable and available and a solid option if a console-like experience is all you're targeting. And I mean, if you're coming off of like PS4, y'all, like PS4, hell, even PS3 or older legacy hardware, which hold on to your legacy hardware, could be useful to somebody else. Even if you're letting go a motherboard, CPU, and RAM combination for $100, that $100 could go to your budget to, again, get a better quality monitor, one with like a faster refresh rate, or a faster CPU with more cores. But the 6650 XT would get you an experience like on SX or PS5. Han says, solid recommendation there with the with 6650 XT or even 6700 XT. Han says, or Brother Mike, on the AMD side, the 7700, 7900 non-X are great CPUs for game and workload. Also very efficient with low TDPs, right? That 65 watt TDP is quite amazing. Again, those are the non-X based chips, so they're not going to boost as high. But for most conventional users, the maximum boost clock frequency is all you need. I mean, it's good to just let PBO, I'm not sure which version it's on, I think 2 or 3. Just let PBO do its thing, and that's precision boost overdrive, and letting that maximize the cores based on temperature headroom. It's the most stable, it's the most safest for your chip, and it's the easiest way to go if you're just breaking into it and you say, you know what, I just want to play some games. I just want to play some games. And here in this community, y'all, here inside the lab community, we say there's no better way to experience a video game than on a PC. PCs are the definitive way to experience video games. Games are built on PCs, right? They're built on PCs for PCs. They're made by PCs. PCs have character and consoles have a purpose. Okay, they exist for a reason. But PCs exist for video games, y'all. Are you what? Tell me I'm lying. But no console hate, though. No console hate. And we're going to talk about it. Why? I mean, I know this upcoming series probably won't be as popular, but it's a conversation that needs to be talked about. We can't ignore it. And even then, I like to counter, even still, with an alternative, right? That's attainable and sustainable for most gamers who are, again, looking to just break onto the platform and play video games. That's what they want, right? Like that's what they want. They don't necessarily need the latest and greatest. A GTX 1080 Ti for around 150 to 200 USD could serve them well, right? That's a 4K capable card, y'all. Even if 4K isn't your resolution, like, whoa, hey, I don't even have a 4K monitor. I just picked up this 1080p monitor at Walmart for $119. You know, it's got 144. It's 144 FPS. or 144 hertz refresh rate. I'm sorry, not FPS, but 144 hertz refresh rate. Yeah, I just picked that bad boy up. I just need a card that's going to be able to power this resolution. And if that's the case, you even definitely still want to go with a fast CPU. Right? Semi pro tip in between there, fam. High resolution, not high resolution, but high refresh rate. 1080p gaming, a fast CPU should definitely be on your radar when you're parting out your list. Okay. That sends us signals and signs that you plan on playing your, games like Overwatch and Apex Legends, or here we go, Fortnite. Fortnite gets there hard. Or you're playing Fortnite. I'm sorry if that's loud. That looks like it might be a little too loud. But if you're playing games like Call of Duty Warzone, competitive-based FPS games, even if you don't play competitive, right? I mean, you want and you're going to likely play those at a setting that's going to net you the most FPS. And that means you want to leverage your monitor's refresh rate. If it's at more than 60 or 75 or even 120, and you're rocking like 144 or 165 hertz monitor, we're going to do a deep dive monitor buying guide. So if you haven't yet, you're going to want to definitely subscribe for that one if you're new here to the channel. And even if you are, you still might want to stick around for that, as we're going to take the conversation on the significance and importance on your monitor further than we ever have before, y'all. Further than we ever have before. All right, but jumping back. So our first pro tip, build around your budget, okay? That's the first step to getting started. Build around your needs and then your budget, okay? Assess the type of games you want to play, how you wish to experience them, your monitor type, all of that good stuff. That way you don't overspend. You definitely don't want to overspend. I mean, you want to put your budget, or you want to put your finances, you want to allocate funds in areas that's going to have the most significant impact on your targeted game experience, okay, your TGE. But jumping in to pro tip number 2, and again, if I have any that you feel I've left out some details or some information, feel free to leave them here with us live in the chat. I will add it to the show, or I'll add your take or opinion here to the show, so long as it's respectful. Even if you don't agree with me, still share them here with us on the live chat, or definitely share them down in the comment section below. But another pro tip you should consider is prepare yourself. Okay, getting ready starts with you, not with necessarily reading on or watching benchmark videos on that 6650 XT on what it can do, or how much FPS can it run at 1080p at high settings, or what have you. Getting ready starts with you. Prepare yourself. Do you have the right tools? Are you familiar with the platform choice or socket that you're going with? You likely won't be, or need to be overclocking your CPU. So are you favoring water, or are you more like air stock or an aftermarket cooler, or will you just go with the cooler that comes with your CPU, again, like a stock cooler? Right? Are you into an AIO because you want maximum temperature, low temperatures, not maximum temperatures? You definitely don't want maximum temperatures. Are you gonna blow something up? But maybe you want low temperatures, the lowest possible temperatures, and you want your system to be nice and quiet, ASMR style. Like, some CPU coolers are really quiet, like they're near silent, and there are some that are loud. But AIOs are typically a little, especially like a single 140 millimeter AIO, not more along the lines of an enthusiast grade AIO like a 240 or a 360, but familiarize yourself with the process. Ultimately, doing this will help you prevent costly mistakes like buying incompatible parts or breaking something during the build, while you're building. Or most importantly, like I just mentioned, that's buying incompatible parts. You may buy a part that you can't return or that you can't take back. Or maybe you jumped on a deal on the used market for a motherboard or a CPU that's not, that are incompatible with one another. Or you bought a case that won't fit your motherboard, or a motherboard that won't fit your case, or your power supply unit's not enough or not big enough. Familiarize yourself with the process so that you can prevent those mistakes, fam. Okay? Preparing yourself, it starts with you. Having the right tools, I mean, that's pretty straightforward. That's something we're going to talk about in the next segment. But when you talk about having the right tools, I mean, if you're building the system yourself, then I recommend you have at the very minimum a Phillips flathead screwdriver, thermal paste, isopropyl for removing any old thermal paste or stock thermal paste from the stock cooler, or maybe you didn't apply it properly and now you need to you need to reset and try again. And a non-phosphorus material like a coffee filter, right, for removing the thermal paste. That's essentially all you need, but it's good to have zip ties for cable management and an Allen wrench or an Allen key for motherboard standoff. Sometimes they don't come pre-installed on the case, and you may need to install them yourself, and you can't really get them all the way screwed into the case by hand. You want to use an Allen key and an extended screwdriver head or Phillips head for your bulky air coolers or your hard to reach areas. And definitely make sure your screw tips are magnetic. Sometimes, most of the time, probably all the time, I probably drop at least a screw or two or a few during the build process, and having magnetic tips are super handy. Earlier in the year, I believe last year, Sparta Rules had gifted us the iFixit toolkit with magnetic bits. Shout out to Sparta Rules, not here, but Sparta Rules sent us that toolkit, and it's one of my favorite tools I use now. All the tips are magnetic, and I don't lose the screws as much. I had a magnetic tip before, but didn't seem like it was. It seemed like it was like losing its magnetism. Screws didn't really stick on great, and even as they got lower, they just kind of fell. But having those things is good, but most importantly, it's the good, better, best model. So it's a good, better, best model. It's good to have flathead screwdriver, Phillips screwdriver, isopropyl, thermal paste, non-phosphorus material, coffee filter. It's even better to have your zip ties for your proper cable management. That's going to help you with maintaining your build. If you have to exchange a part or just doing some general maintenance like removing dust, clearing out any debris, just keeping your system looking nice and mint, right? Having good cable management is going to help make that process easy. Even upgrading or replacing damaged or faulty components, okay? But that's essentially all you need. But you really need to prepare yourself, right? Watch build videos here on YouTube. I have so many on the channel. Like if you or somebody need like a reference or material to need like reference to get an idea of what all takes with building a PC, then send them any one of our build videos we've done here on the channel. Not only are they they have a solid narrative, but they are also super educational and informative. Shout out to Sparta Rules 1993. It's good to see you, Sparta Rules. Brother Anthony's in the house. Get a round of applause. What's happening, Brother Anthony? All the way from California. It's good to see you, fam. We ain't been live in a minute in the Live XP show. Slowly bringing it back as we introduce new subscribers here to the Live Experience show, and they get to know me as a creator. And I try to answer some of their pain points, go through any build tutorials or build vlogs. We got a lot to talk about here on the channel coming up, but it's good to see you, Sparta Rules. We're sharing a few pro tips, and if you had any you would like to share, please feel free to share them with us here in the live chat. I also highly encourage you to hit the like button for me. Let's get this live stream out in front of as many eyes as possible while we're here live now and after it debuts, as we leave it up as it is. Sparta Rules, good to see you. Han says, and I see Cliff says that y'all take care. I think Cliff had to roll out. Damn, well, Cliff, it was good having you. Give Cliff a round of applause. Cliff, you probably already left, but I'll reach out to you on Twitter about that hardware. If our deal still stands, if not, it's all good. It's all love, brother. But I need to get with you. Han says, I also have a 7800 X3D, but to be honest, you won't notice much. Compare, let's say, the 7900 non-X 80 to 100 FPS average. It's totally fine for me. Save the money and get a bigger SSD or 32 gigabytes of RAM. Yes, totally. Absolutely, totally agree with that. I mean, so often ignored or ill-regarded the importance of RAM or the role it serves and drawing things like assets and resources in our games. Especially, I know Mike or Han shared that he likes playing open world games, like immersive based games. Or Spider Rules, I know from our previous talks, really enjoyed, say, playing Red Dead Redemption 2. I know, and well, Spider Rules has been enjoying his Steam Deck here as of lately, but games like Red Dead Redemption 2 that are open world, or you have objects in the distance that you don't want necessarily to just pop in. You want it to feel as lifelike as possible. Like, you want to feel like the closer you are headed in that direction, the larger the structure or cave or what have you appears. And you want that transition to be smooth. The more RAM you have, it's not necessarily the more you be able to load in, or quite possibly it will be the more you'll be able to load in with your games, but there would be less stuttering, right? There would be less, less pop-ins, things that feel unnatural to an open world game that's meant to feel as natural as possible. And obviously, a bigger SSD is significant, important, as we mentioned earlier with content block number 1, and that was building around your needs. And that is that games are becoming larger and larger in file size. Red Dead Redemption 2, another game that's rather big in file space. GTA 5, another game that's rather big in file space. But if you don't want to go back and forth with, say, installing and uninstalling games, then save the money and put it in other places that are that are more important, if you will. Sorry to sound generic and bland, but Han says, are they still serving Bud Light? Oh, okay, because Sparta Rose said, just watching the Kings versus Warriors games with the boys at a local bar and restaurant. Nice. Well, listen, man, shout out to you and the boys. Hope y'all are enjoying your night. Kings and Warriors, man, that's highly entertaining, Sparta Rules, but you decided to pop in and watch your boy, man. I highly appreciate you for that. Highly appreciate you for that, Sparta Rules. But now, all serious, I hope you and your friends are having a good time. I like watching the Warriors play too, right? Like when I play basketball, I'm a shooter, yeah, and I'm a little slasher too. But it's fun watching the Warriors play, I honestly admit. But good stuff, Spider Rules. And Hans says that he's serving Bud Light. I'm a Bud Light fan myself too. I like to drink Bud Light. But switch it back over here. All good stuff, y'all. Keep the conversation going. Keep it bouncing. Keep it fluid. But for those who are just checked in or checked out or just checked in, it's popping in and out. Again, hit the like button for me if you're unable to stay. Listen, fam, listen. I understand if you can't stay for the full duration. But if you pop in and hit that like button, it still sends good signals to YouTube. YouTube will then send this video out to as many people as possible. I want to help as many gamers as possible break over onto this platform. So share it out. Share this video out. Okay, like it, share it. Let's get out in front of as many people as possible. But the pro tip I share with preparing yourself and how getting ready starts with you is that you want to make sure you have the right tools. The right tools can be familiarizing yourself with the process while also building your tool, your toolkit, or making sure you have the necessary tools. Again, that extends beyond just having a screwdriver and Phillips head. I mean, know the delicacy of installing a Ryzen-based CPU that's non-AM5 based. The importance of proper thermal paste application, the significance of cable management, understanding fan configuration and airflow and how heat works and how heat and dust affects a system. I mean, these are things that you need to prepare yourself for, and that's why getting ready starts with you, fam. Okay, getting ready starts with you, but prepare yourself, familiarize yourself with the process. Watch build videos, read, however you learn, right? Whatever your method of learning, pursue that or be in pursuant of that. Building a gaming PC or even buying a pre-build, like the ownership doesn't stop where it begins, right? Like it doesn't stop when you've picked out your system. It doesn't stop after you've put it all together. There are things you will continue to learn about your system or that you will need to discover and learn from troubleshooting or trying to troubleshoot a black screen, or you might have some B sides, that's blue screens of death, or you might have some G sides, that's green screens of death, or you might have some stuttering or tearing. I mean, your system might just be straight up doing something that you just don't understand or know why it's doing that. You just know it's not natural or normal because your fancy PlayStation or console doesn't do those things. Got to give it to our consoles, but nothing wrong with that. But again, prepare yourself. Okay, if you have any questions for my replay viewers, most of you are here with us now live, kind of have a good understanding of what all goes into it, and you're well experienced enthusiasts. But for those of us who are not, or for those of you who are not, leave your questions down in the comment section below, right? Like, ignorance is bliss, and you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So leave your questions, leave your questions down below, or right here in the live chat. Spider Rules says, I'm a Kings fan. Give us a score update, Sparta Rules 1993. Give us a score update, brother Ant. Let us know what's going on. I'm out of loop with basketball, but yeah, let us know what's going on. I typically only watch during the playoff, and when it gets closer to, get closer to like the semifinals and the finals. But haven't watched basketball in a while since after Kobe had retired. I kind of fell out of love with basketball, and I grew up with Kobe, so there's that. But getting back to the focus, getting back to the conversation. Again, prepare yourself, familiarize yourself with the process, know what it takes. What I recommend is that even if you don't plan on building your system yourself, still know and understand the process of building a gaming PC, right? Like the exact opposite. Like, if you need to replace your power supply unit, okay, or you need to replace your thermal paste, or you need to replace your cooler, right? Or maybe you want to do something as simple as add more RAM. Get comfortable with how, your BIOS settings affect your system as an overall. Yeah, you don't want to change a whole lot, but even if it's as simple as enabling an XMP or the benefits to enabling an XMP, these are things you want to familiarize yourself with, okay? Ignorance is bliss. Don't assume, right? Because assuming in this business can cost you money, can be a costly endeavor. Okay, Spider Rules. So the game just got started then. They're probably somewhere in like the top of the first quarter, 23, or midway through the first quarter, 23-22. Golden State's a high scoring team, so that's probably like at the very beginning of the game. Mrs. Mom says, I like watching Golden State play. Golden State's a fun team to watch, but Spider Rules is unfortunately a Kings fan. Sacramento. Good stuff. All right, but let's jump back over to the conversation, y'all. Again, pro tip number 2, get your tools all together. That's both your physical tools and just the tool, the mindset, right? Like, that's your most important tool, just getting into that mindset of being a PC enthusiast, being a PC gamer, right? If you're building, just being a PC builder, it takes patience, it takes time. You want to make sure you give yourself enough time to finish what you start. And in case you run into any mistakes, you may need to run out to the store, run to a Micro Center. If you're fortunate enough to live by one, not all of us are. Micro Center for me is like an hour away. Cliff bounced, but Cliff lived, like, I think Cliff said he can see his Micro Center from his backyard. So that's super helpful. But, you don't want to start your build 8 or 9 o'clock at night in case you run into a problem. The top of the day is the best way to start. Okay? But prepare yourself. Getting started, getting ready starts with you. That's the second pro tip, or the second content block. I'm going to jump into the third, and that is no new hardware, right? The aftermath of being done, okay? Now, switch that back here. All right. Not a typo, but it's the aftermath of being done, or no new hardware. And essentially what we talked about at the top of this live stream, where we said, hey, you want to depend on your motherboard. The best way I can say it, right? Like, depend on your motherboard. This will open you up to future upgrades and will give you resale value, right? And other features. So you want to depend on your motherboard. It's an exposed PCB, highly sensitive component, a highly sensitive part to your system. But then you want to rely on your CPU. Regardless of your resolution or game, your CPU will calculate all your vital tasks and input, like game input on keyboard and mouse or controller. Yes, your boy. Yes, your boy still plays on controller. guilty console pleasure of mine that I've not been able to shake. As you can see, I play Spider-Man with an Xbox controller. Right, some games on keyboard and mouse I rock with, like Call of Duty Warzone, Fortnite. Goodness gracious, picking on Fortnite again. But some games I do rock with on keyboard and mouse. Okay, or when we did the Alien Isolation live gameplay series, I played predominantly on keyboard and mouse in that game, which was super frantic for me because that game was already nerve-wracking. I mean, that game's a classic too, that would play really well on mid-size or mid-tiered hardware. Still would deliver a great experience. Like Brother Han has said, that's equal, if not better than a console. And it wouldn't necessarily break the bank. But Alien Isolation was a fun game, right? But I got that guilty pleasure of playing on a controller. But regardless, your CPU handles and processes input, okay? And you want that input to be registered as fast as possible. Just while your frames are being rendered and, spread to you, you want your input to be interloped somewhere in between at a smooth rate, okay? So depend on your motherboard, rely on your CPU. Most find the need to upgrade your video card or your graphics card before either of those two components, but they are arguably just as important. Everybody wants a shiny new graphics card because it sounds right, like, ray tracing, or maybe you don't need ray tracing. And we talked about that, hey, ray tracing or DLSS, or it just sounds better because it's the newer thing. I mean, you're going to want to upgrade your graphics card before you're really going to want to upgrade your motherboard and your CPU. If you're building a secondary system, okay, that's, notwithstanding, but for a single user setup, right, or just like a single setup, you're not going to want to upgrade your motherboard or your CPU as frequent as you're going to want to find yourself upgrading your graphics card, okay? That's a slight opinion. I don't have, like a factual statement, but from my experience from working with different users and different builders, those who want to get a little bit more out of their system, I mean, the graphics card is typically the first go-to with their upgrade. I mean, that's where they're going to invest all, if not most, of their money. But slowly and carefully assess the areas that create a bottleneck to your experience. For example, do you not have a sufficient amount of storage space? Right, we talked about that. Or like Han had mentioned, get a bigger SSD or more RAM. Right. So assess the areas that are creating a bottleneck to your experience before determining which upgrade or the idea of no new hardware in the aftermath of being done. You want to assess the areas that are creating the biggest bottlenecks to your targeted gaming experience. That bottleneck with not having a sufficient amount of storage space means I can't update my games because I have to uninstall a game first, or I have to delete a few files or clear up the system registry before I'm able to update and play this game. It's a significant bottleneck, and it really puts a damper on, your mind or the state you get into before you sit down and you want to play your game. Another area that you might want to assess if it's creating a bottleneck, and that is your PC loud or does it run hot? A lot of us aren't really bothered by that because the majority of gamers play with headphones on. So you really, your system's, case fans are inaudible. You don't really hear them unless you're just playing your game really low. But does it run hot? Like does the air in the room or environment that your PC in gets hot? Because your PC to keep cool is reliant on ambient air temperatures. And if that ambient temperature is hot, then your system too will run hot. It's reliant on the air around it to keep it cool. So does your system run hot? Is it time for an AIO because you're in an area where it just naturally gets hot and keeping your system cool is a little difficult? So does that mean you should upgrade to an AIO versus upgrading your GPU or hell, even your CPU? Are you experiencing stuttering and frame drops or low graphic detail? If that's the case, then a graphics card and possibly a CPU should be on your radar, or a faster, more modern CPU should be on your radar. But if you're like, Lab, I just upgraded my CPU about a year or 2 years ago, 3 years ago, then a new graphics card should probably be on your radar, especially if that graphics card, you had it before you made the CPU and motherboard upgrade, right? Say before going to like a Zen 3 or AM4 motherboard, like a B550 or something along the lines there, or you're on a previous chipset like X300, like an older chipset. Does it not have enough RGB? Everybody knows RGB makes your system run fast. This is why old girls over here is on the rainbow vomit, right? Everybody knows RGB makes your system run fast. But the idea is to focus on upgrades that will enhance both your setup and your experience as a PC user first. Okay? Focus on upgrades that will enhance both your setup and your experience as a PC user, and you will find yourself getting the most out of your system, or the most, not the most out of your system, but achieving your targeted game experience. Okay? Achieving your targeted game experience starts with determining the type of games you want to play and how you wish to experience them. After you made that determination, you decide on your resolution and your refresh rate, screen size, and things like that. Really could come down to preference. Typically, competitive based games and first-person shooters play well at 24 to 27 inches. You can play them at any size, essentially, but what seems to be popular amongst the competitive space or competitive field is that 24 to 27 inch range, with 27 inches and higher being reserved for those of us who like story-driven, based immersive games like Days Gone, Spider-Man PC Remastered, although I played on ultra-wide, another higher super niche resolution, 3440 by 1440p, and a 21:9 aspect ratio. It's a little wider. But that's because me as a gamer, that's the targeted gaming experience that I wanted for myself. I wanted to experience the game in a unique, wide format, that QWHD provides, right? Quad wide HD. Damn, I get bumbled. I dropped the ball, y'all. I told y'all I was going to get into it, but I almost made it without showing my rust completely. But Spider Rule says 27-28. I'm just going to say go Warriors. Go Warriors. But all good stuff. But I mean, again, with these tips and advice, you will be better prepared to start your experience as a PC gamer, user, or enthusiast, to give you the tools, give you the confidence to get started, right? To make that leap over onto this platform, to transition from console gamer to PC gamer, or to enhance your system, from an older platform. Or maybe you have like a GTX 600 base card or a 700 base card, and you're like, you know what, Lab, I really need to upgrade my system. What can I do? Well, definitely going to want to stick around as we expand on some thoughts, concerns, and ideas on what to do with that old hardware. I mean, you could be sitting on, some coin. You could be sitting on some serious funds there, okay, that can help you with your upgrade, that can help you get more out of your system. All right. I see Mrs. Ma dropped the insider or dropped the link for our insider email list. Highly recommend you sign up and become an insider over there. I won't solicit anything other than important news or content updates, or the fact that YouTube gets weirder and weirder with their notifications. So live streams like this one that maybe didn't have as much reach as they have before could be attributed to a lot of things, but definitely sign up for the email list. Become an insider. That way I could cultivate this community, and we could, reinvigorate the content, and, get more users over onto the platform, and, just continue to enjoy games in their best possible form or state. I also plan on bringing back the Let's Play live series here, where we do live streams with video games based on a particular topic. The Live XP, evolving into a live podcast, if you will, or a dedicated podcast in the future. But our regular videos will be spliced in there between. I want to get back to my story-driven content around PC gaming. I mean, that's what I built this channel on, and that's one of the things I take pride in, and that's being a storyteller. But our live experience, y'all, this has always been an outlet to just communicate and have a conversation with the community, right? And that's why the Return to Live XP is back. I will get better at scheduling. Sometimes I run into a few life issues that kind of just hang things up in between, but definitely follow us on Instagram. You can find the link in the live chat here. I leave the live chat up for my replay viewers. If you made it this far, shout out to our replay viewers. I really do appreciate y'all. But definitely follow us over on your preferred social media of choice. A lot of you do follow me, but if you haven't yet, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for, huh? I need that I need that I know what you did last summer skit. But yeah, fam, I mean, we'll bring that up. We play this here. That might be a little loud, but that's all I have for this one, y'all. Let me not play that yet. Hold on. That might be a little loud. I don't know if that's... I'll adjust that. But again, we're getting the kinks out. But either way, that's all I have for this one, y'all. Do be sure to look out for the next one. Stick around for the post-credit scene if you haven't yet. If you're watching the replay, thanks for making it this far. Leave any questions, comments, or concerns you may have, and hopefully I'll have been educational and entertaining enough to have earned your subscription. But that'll be all for this one. So until then, catch you on the next one. Be easy.